There we go. It's official. It's Friday, and we are live with Dawson Wheeler, Clint Powell, Day Fire Podcast, social media gurus. How in the world are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. I got a little social distancing a couple of days ago and went up into the national forest, and it was beautiful, and wandered around a little bit on my bicycle and kept it safe. And but
Was that
looked
your
at
pictures of the
Tellico
waterfall?
River,
Yeah.
Bald River Falls, Tellico River. Went up to the North Carolina line, turned around at North Carolina line because I didn't want to cross the line there, but it was beautiful. And
How
saw
how
some
long of a
other
ride?
folks. Huh?
How long of a ride was it?
It's 50 miles. 50
Wow.
miles. Yep. Went and it was great. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful day, 42 degrees. I think it got up to 45 by the middle of the day. So cold, crisp. There's some fly fishermen, maybe 20 people over 20 miles I saw. People were definitely spread out. It was nice.
I saw the pictures of the waterfall, and I love waterfalls. I'm a waterfall
Yeah,
guy, and I was like, "Gummit, there he goes again."
it was
Having
beautiful.
fun.
Yeah, it was great.
All right, so we started this a couple weeks ago due to quarantine, studio restrictions. We started doing some Facebook Live videos. They've been really
Exactly.
well. Yeah, they've been really well received. I think this is our third one or fourth one. I can't remember. Last week, we had the folks on from Reflection Writing, catching up with them and talking about the American Red Wolf. Well, I don't know what prompted this. I'm going to take credit for it. And you didn't know I was going to say this, but I did have an encounter that scared the bejesus out of me with a big owl out in my backyard because I heard him scream and I was like, okay, that's an owl. But it sounded like I said the haunted forest was in my backyard. And today you did it again. You brought in our friends from Reflection Writing.
Yeah, we got Mark McKnight here, and let's just start with Mark. And we thought about during this time talking about topics that are really just happy. And reflection writing obviously is got a number of animals in their rehab area, and these are animals that cannot be released back to the wild that have been injured. And there's a lot of virus talk, and there's a lot of sheltering at home and in place talk, but reflection writing is continuing. You obviously got to take care of the animals every day, and you've got some exciting news. I hope you will share, not about the owls. Maybe we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But we thought, hey, let's get some of the animals on and give them a little screen time. So, how you doing, Mark?
Yeah, doing well today. It's a beautiful day out here. I'm very fortunate to be able to come out and spend time on this beautiful property. So, enjoying the spring.
Yeah, and you've got a treat for us today, right?
Yeah. So this coming up onto the screen this way.
Here we go. I'll take myself out of it. Hold on one second, guys.
I'm here with our eastern screech owl, and you'll see I don't have a glove on. Most of our owls, well, most of our birds in general, you're going to want a big burly glove, and you'll see that in a minute. But the eastern screech owl is so little and is a very, very lightweight bird. I'm hoping this is Willow. Willow and I have not spent a lot of time together recently. So
Willow's looking at you and not camera.
Yeah, he is just staring right at me, and probably will continue to. Yeah, so you're probably not going to see Willow's one eye, but like most of our captive animals, there is a reason, as you mentioned, why we don't, why we have them in captivity. Willow was probably a car strike, and what happens? We teach about this concept of the apple core theory. So if you're a environmentally minded person, you're eating an apple in your car, and you think, hey, this is biodegradable. I should chuck it out the window, and it'll be food for something else, and it'll biodegrade instead of me taking it home and throwing it away. But what you're actually doing by doing that is you're attracting rodents to the side of the road. And who eats rodents? These guys, all the owls, the raptors.
Oh, there he is.
we're about to see an eye here.
Oh,
You can see this is the one that's missing.
Yeah.
And then there's another one. If I do this, he might turn around. Follow me this way. Nah, we'll just keep talking and see if you ever see an eye. But so anyways, when we talk about the apple core theory, it's a bad theory. It's not a good plan. Keep that apple core, take it home, compost it at home, or throw it away. It's better in the landfill than hurting our native wildlife.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So we wanted to start with the smallest. We're going to go through a few owls because we do get a lot of questions about owls. It's funny. Owls and monkeys. We'll talk about this later, but there's actually an owl that when they get into their breeding season here in the southeastern United States, it sounds like there's a bunch of monkeys in your backyard. So there's some fun
we've had a monkey story, in fact, from Bill Hodge
really?
in the SAWS group about a monkey sighting up in the Cherokee National Forest, which is a whole different podcast, and we'll talk about that later. But we won't talk about it on this episode. But Clinton, do you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if our viewers want to know, because there's the eyes. There we go, Dawson. Look at it.
There
she is. There you go. That's awesome. What's this? We got to do this. Look at this. That is awesome. But I was just going to tell our viewers, if you're wanting to know who, air quote, is essential podcast members, it's not the guy who can take himself off the screen. It's Dawson Wheeler and the owl. When I was looking at it going, man, I think I just became a non-essential employee at this place right here.
I'm glad he's looking at you.
Yeah, well, let's do this again. Wow, that's the great thing.
Now the screech that's native to southeast Tennessee, eastern Tennessee, or all the entire southeast.
Yeah, the whole southeast. In fact, I've seen them in Texas. I think they probably, and Tish would know more. Tish is the expert here, so I'll let her kind of come in.
Is that the one that makes the? I mean, I guess it's common. Is that the one that makes the noise that freaks everybody out, or is there another owl that we're going to talk about?
Yeah, we're going to play the call for you. It's actually our owls in the southeast are kind of poorly named, honestly. Yeah, screech owl does not screech.
It's a whinny and a trill.
Sounds more like a horse.
Oh wow!
Here it's coming.
That's an awesome.
That is the sound of an eastern screech owl.
And that would be considered song?
That was a call.
It's a call. Owls really don't have songs. They just have calls. They're really communicating with one another, calling to one another during breeding season, and then calling to defend their territory.
Okay, so either come here or stay out, one of the two, right? Sounds like much of the conversation I'm having and shut in with my wife right now. Come here or stay back, one of the two.
So they have these beautiful, I love all bird feathers, but they have these beautiful feathers. There's an eye too.
The gray morph, the eastern screech owl comes in two morphs, the red morph and the gray morph. This is the gray morph. And the gray morph, the camouflage is really incredible.
Yeah, if you think about the side of a tree, and if this thing is in a little nook on a tree, you're not going to see it at all.
No.
In fact, they'll just hang out. If you're lucky enough to find one in the wild, you can get great photography because they don't move. Mm-hmm. Their strategy is to just sit there and most people or most predators wouldn't see it.
Owls are wait and see predators. So like Mark's saying, they like to just sit still, and when some type of prey item runs by, they swoop down and grab it. They're not built for speed. They're built for waiting and watching.
I'm going to turn my hand a little bit, and you might get some wing.
But do you have another one?
There you go.
There you go.
Oh,
yeah. So let's move on.
Tish
is going to grab. Okay, so here's another reason why the owls of eastern the southeast are poorly named. There is a barn, B-A-R-N, like where you keep horses, and there's a bard, B-A-R-R-E-D, like the bars of a prison. So we're going to start with a barn owl, which is one of my favorites. Beautiful owl. And what I'm doing right now that you can't see on screen really is because this is a flighted owl, which means it could fly away. It only has one eye, so it wouldn't last very long in the wild. And so it's one of those animals that we have to keep under our control, because it wouldn't make it a day probably out in the wild.
Bring him a little over toward your there. Bring him a little up. There you go.
I have what's called a jess here, and that is attached to.
Yeah, bring him down a little bit. There you go.
I don't know if you can actually see the jess. You can kind of see it when it moves, but I'm going to take, and I can't move it this far over, but I'm actually attaching his jess to the travel box that we have him in. And I'll let Tish come in on the other side.
Oh, wow.
Right. Yeah, this is let me get situated.
No, I'm gonna take myself off the screen. I'll jump back in. That's too pretty for me to be up here with it. Hold on.
This is a barn owl, B-A-R-N. Mark was explaining how bard and barn often get confused. This is one of my personal favorite owls. They're just spectacular to look at and very unusual. And this is a bird under management concern in Tennessee. You don't see this bird very often. Their habitats are being destroyed. They do like to be in barns. They like to be in abandoned buildings, and they like to get as high as they possibly can. This animal has a superpower. Her hearing is her superpower. If we can get her to look, she's not been in Mark's office before, so she's really checking it out. If you can look at her facial disc, it's heart-shaped, and that acts like a satellite dish to bring the sound into her ears.
Oh, wow.
And her ears are just inside that facial disc. And there's one high and one low. All owls' ears are asymmetrical. It's not drastic asymmetry. It's very subtle. And that helps them determine if their prey items are high, mid, or low in the forest. So her superpower is her hearing, and she can hear a mouse's heartbeat 30 feet away.
Really?
Pretty incredible. Yeah. This is the best hearer of the forest. That's hard to say. Trying to get her.
There's no tippy-toeing around.
There is no tippy-toeing. Scientists have done so many studies on this bird. Okay, what she did is called baiting. She only has one full wing and a partial wing, and so her balance is really poor. Science has done studies on this bird and put them in a completely dark room, like can't see your hand in front of your face dark, and then released a mouse. And they don't waste any time. They're on it immediately. They're not feeling around. They're not waiting. They are on it.
How big of an animal would she take down to eat?
She could take a rabbit. She could take a rabbit, a squirrel. You have to think about these are nocturnal animals. So what they're going to eat is something that is also nocturnal. So rabbits can be crepuscular, which is active at dusk and dawn. So she's going to eat rabbits. They are known to be mousers. They eat a lot of mice. Owls are not strong like a great horned owl, which we'll see in a little while, is extremely strong. But these smaller owls are not super strong. So I would say her maximum would be, a good sized squirrel or a good sized rabbit. But
and then during the day, what are they a third shift animal? They sleeping all day?
They're third shift. Yep. They're snoozing during the day.
So they're in a crook of it. Are they in their nest during the day or a crook of a tree or?
Yes. barn owls, you're going to find mostly in abandoned buildings. So they're hanging out as high as they can get in an old abandoned building, just snoozing for the day.
And they build a nest, right? Would they ultimately have a big nest that they sit in?
Some owls build a nest, some don't. Barn owls kind of do. Great horns more so, and it just varies by species.
Okay.
I'm going to give a quick shout out too, because we got some comments. George Brown said reflection riding is Chattanooga Gym. So let's take advantage of social media. Thank you, George.
I don't know if y'all can see, she's rocking her head side to side a little bit. The barn owl does a really cool defense mechanism called toe dusting. And if she were really getting into it, if she really felt threatened, she would pick up her feet and stomp them up and down. She'd rock that head side to side, and then she would put her wings all the way out. And it becomes this elaborate display. And then on top of that, she's going to scream. This is the owl that screams and sounds like a woman screaming. So go ahead.
Can you play the
I can play the call. Yep. I can play the call. And this is a very common phone call I get from people. People will call me and say, there is a woman screaming in my woods. And I say, you've either got a barn owl or a fox. Go on YouTube and listen, because fox scream as well. But I want you to listen to this barn owl call. It's frightening. If you were in the forest at night and heard this, you would definitely pause. Just a second. Take a minute to get it up.
That's okay. You were talking about that display of defensiveness. It just reminded me of when I was young. A lot of my buddies may have that same type of thing when, we'd be out some night.
Okay. You hear that?
I would not want to hear that.
It sounds like a woman's.
Can you imagine camping out with a bunch of young kids and telling ghost stories, and all of a sudden that screech comes through the woods? Yep. It would be the best of all times during your marshmallow ghost stories.
I have a funny story though. A friend of mine lives in Old Town on Signal Mountain, which is a wooded area, but still quite a few homes. And he called me one morning, probably 7 o'clock in the morning. He goes, I've been up since 4 o'clock. And I said, what's going on? He said, I heard a woman screaming in my backyard, and I thought my neighbor was being murdered. And I said, okay, hang on. And I got my phone out. I played him both calls. And when I got to the barn owl call, he said, that's it. He had a barn owl in his backyard in Old Town. And that's really cool, because they again are under management concern in Tennessee. And it's because their habitats and the places that they like to hang out are being destroyed.
Now there's an owl that hoots, right?
That's our great horned owl.
Okay. And it's like a hoot, hoot, hoo, hoo kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. It's great horned is, a lot of people call them hoot owls. It's a very typical owl call, and we'll do it when we get to him.
Okay.
I don't know.
Who do you have next?
I've got a barred owl next. Look at her speckling on her chest. Male barn owls, let me back up. Barn owls are sexually dimorphic, meaning their coloration tells you male or female. That's real uncommon in the raptor world. This is a female, and she has more speckles on her chest. And believe it or not, her face is dark compared to a male's. So just a little bit of cool information. And in the raptor world, the girls are bigger than the boys. We say girl power here at the Nature Center. It's hard to tell. You got to know what you're looking for. Another thing that people don't realize is this bird only weighs about a pound. So you have to think about essentially hollow bones and lots of feathers. So she's very lightweight. If they had solid bones like ours, they'd never get off the ground. They wouldn't be able to fly.
How wide is their wingspan?
Her wingspan is probably close to 5 feet. Obviously, this wing is partially amputated. Excuse me. Well, it's hard to show y'all. This wing is partially amputated. And then this is her full wing. So she would have about a 5 foot wingspan roughly.
That's huge.
It is big. Yeah, it's really big for a 1 pound bird.
I've got a question on, all raptors, but especially when you've got a 4, 5, 6 foot wingspan and they're flying through dense woods.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that seems hard, right?
They are excellent at maneuvering. Really,
is it like a radar type thing? I mean,
it's their vision. Their vision is so incredible. And believe it or not, though, the hawks, the buteos and other hawks are the ones who have the really spectacular vision. And they can draw in those wings and maneuver around a tree. And, owls, again, are the wait and see predators. The hawks are the one who hunt on the wing. So their maneuverability is even better than owls.
Wow, it's incredible.
Yeah, it is
Beautiful
incredible.
Animal.
They're beautifully built, and they're just masters at what they do. So next one's a barred owl.
Okay, it's interesting once you've called out the face and really that kind of scooped heart-shaped line that goes around. It's very identifiable once it's been pointed out.
Yeah, this owl is mostly identified by that facial disc, and some people call him the monkey-faced owl, the heart-faced owl, or the apple-faced owl.
Yeah, let's go with Apple. I don't want to hurt her feelings.
I like Apple too. Yeah.
Hey, I was gonna say when this whole thing started, I was gonna say that looks like the face of a monkey, but I didn't want to make anybody upset. So.
Yeah, some people call them monkey-faced owls. Yep. Okay, I'll step out and get our barred owl, B-A-R-R-E-D, another favorite of mine.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, she was. Oh, you're back. Come on, man. What's up?
I have to say, it's not every day that a owl craps on your desk. This is what happened while he was talking. Which is actually
that's part of the hazard pay that you have as being the executive director out there, right?
Exactly.
You get a hazmat bonus or something? Is there, you have to clean that up?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I think bird poop out there, raptor poop is pretty common, right? You got a lot of
common. It's actually interesting, and I don't know why. We'll have to ask Tish when she brings the next one in, but they call it a mute. That's the technical term for what we just saw.
Mute, M-U-T-E, and there's actually a whole. You can go deeper than you ever want to go on this stuff, but you can look at it and judge the health of the bird based on the color and what you see in the mute. So I think that takes on a whole new slang, right? I mean, yeah. I got muted.
Yeah, and we don't have to go deep into the mute. I'm good with not going deep into the mute. We're good.
See, that's the way my mind works. I'm thinking, okay, now I've got new slang. Like somebody goes, did you mute me?
There's 100% chance. There's 100% chance that Dawson throws that at me later.
Yeah.
Okay. And the old term "slicker than owl." It's not. It's sticky like glue. Okay, this is a barred owl, and this is Crossley.
What's his name?
Crossley.
Okay.
Crossley has a crossed bill. Hopefully, you can see it.
Yeah.
And obviously, only has one eye. He was born with several birth defects and was kicked out of the nest. And so he is a very atypical barred owl. This cocking his head all the way to the side like that is part of his neurological deficits. He'll straighten up in a minute. And then we actually had his eye enucleated because it was so badly damaged. And enucleated is when you remove an eye.
I'm trying to turn my head.
We're going to talk about why you can do that. Hold on a second. We had his eye removed because Mom probably kicked him from the nest. She recognized he was not healthy, and she had other chicks that were healthy that she needed to devote her attention to. So she booted him out, and That's nature, y'all. Nature can be rough. It's survival of the fittest, but it is why these animals succeed. So he was found by some guys on four-wheelers up on Etna Mountain and taken to a local rehabber. And we got him from her when he was about 14, 15 weeks old. Still had all his baby feathers. He was adorable. So we had his eye removed later. And Dawson, the reason he can move his head like that, all mammals have 7 neck vertebrae. Humans, all mammals, even giraffes. Giraffes have 7 neck vertebrae. They're just giant. Owls have 14 neck vertebrae. And that gives them this huge range of motion to move their head. And the reason they need to be able to do that is because their eyes are fixed in the socket. Hopefully Crossley will straighten up here in a minute. Their eyes are fixed in the socket. Their eyes are very, very large. Considering the size of their skull and then the size of their eye, if we had eyes as large as these animals relative to our skull size, our eyes would be as big as grapefruit. So we can move our eyes side to side, up and down, all around in the socket. Owls can't. And so in order to see what's going on around them peripherally, they have to be able to move their head. And they can move their head about 270 degrees either direction. Now, Crossley has some unique abilities and can move his head almost upside down. And that's all from his neurological deficits.
Well, I wanted to jump in with a question. First of all, y'all can't see me when I take myself off the screen, but I'm watching this segment like this right here.
I was doing the same thing.
Yeah. But I do have a question, because not only this owl, but just the other ones or other animals. Most of us have pets. That's our extent of being this close to animals. When I walk in, my dog gets really excited. He wants me to pet him. I can tell when he wants and when he does not want interaction. Is it the same way with these birds or these other animals? Do they sometimes lean into you for the pet? I saw you rubbing his neck, or I think that was. Do they like that? Can you tell? Do they get excited when you show up?
Our wildlife does not want to be touched. Crossley is different because of his neurological deficits. And it really provides us a great opportunity, because I can show people things on him that I can't show on other animals. And I can actually show you his ear in just a minute. Most of our animals, they definitely have distinct personalities, and they absolutely recognize Taylor and me because we're their caregivers. But it's very hands-off. It's not a hug. It's not a love. It's a respect. And Taylor and I have the wonderful fortune of being allowed to be in these animals' lives. But we're very respectful that they are wild animals, and we do keep our distance, and we do not domesticate them. Crossley is very different because of his neurological deficits. I hope that answered the question, Clint.
Yeah, it did. It was a great answer.
Yeah, let me see if Crossley will let us look at his ear, because most people have never seen an owl ear, and they are really cool. They're big.
Well, I'm about to disappear if you pull out an ear. I'm gonna go. Here we go.
Okay. Hopefully we can hear. Can y'all see that?
Yeah, kinda.
Hang on, I gotta move all these feathers out of the way.
I think a lot of us would benefit from having feathers over our ears. Maybe Clint.
There we go.
There.
Can you kind of see it?
Yeah.
It's a big, big ear. And each ear, there's a better look. Each ear is tilted a little differently. This upper ear is tilted kind of open toward the sky. And then this lower ear is tilted a little less toward the sky. And again, that's so that they can determine if their prey item is high, mid, or low in the forest.
So they have 4 ears?
Two.
So they have one on each side.
One on each side. One kind of high, and then one almost level with the eye.
So that also gets them moving their head around a lot because they're picking up different sounds.
Correct.
With each side of their head, right?
Yeah, yeah. We talked about the facial disc on the barn owl. Crossley has a facial disc. Barred owls have a facial disc, and we kind of refer to it as C's on the side of their head. You can sort of see his looks a little bit like a C. He doesn't have any feather tufts. He's just a round-headed owl, but that facial disc acts like a satellite dish to bring the sound into the ears again. Just beautifully built.
Now their hearing is not quite as good, but it's still fantastic.
It's excellent hearing, but it is not barn owl hearing. Nobody's got barn owl hearing. They are the superpower hearing.
Would their vision be better?
Owl's vision is really good, but not like a hawk's vision. So the vision between a barred owl and a barn owl, I would guesstimate to be approximately the same. I'd have to do more research on that. One thing I think is really cool about this owl, this is an owl that most everyone has heard, but probably not known what they were hearing. This bird is crepuscular. They can be heard at dusk and dawn, and then obviously they are nocturnal also through the night. I've got one that calls about 6 o'clock every day near my house, and then he calls again in the morning. And of course, I'm sleeping at night, so I don't know how active he is. But this is one of my absolute favorite calls. And if you put words to it, it would be, who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all? We joke he's the southern owl. And everybody's going to go, oh my gosh, I've heard that before.
Oh yeah, that's the owl call we all try to mimic.
Mm-hmm. And then sometimes you'll just get them going, wah, wah, at the end of the call, that kind of crescendo at the end. The one in my yard will make that call frequently.
And they will respond to that call. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I know I've tried tons of times to get that, to call back, and maybe they're responding to me, or maybe they're just calling. I don't know.
I got to be honest. The fact that I can picture Dawson Wheeler sitting in his front yard making that call makes me very happy.
Backyard, but yeah.
It's a good one. And I encourage everybody, if you hear an owl, call back. Even if you're not very good at the call back. Yeah. And a lot of times they'll come in closer to see what you are. And this app I'm using to play these calls is Sibley's, Sibley. It's a great app. It is one you have to pay for, but it's a really good one. There are others out there. You can always go on YouTube too.
That's awesome.
Barred, just to help y'all understand the difference between barn and barred. Barn gets the name because they like to live in barns. Barred gets the name from these horizontal, this is so hard to do backwards, horizontal and vertical barring on the chest. So that's how they get their name. Okay, the last owl I have with me is our great horned owl. This is the hoot owl. Okay, I'll step out and get him.
Okay. Do you have a favorite yet, Clint?
Well, that one, I don't know if it's my favorite. First of all, that was the cutest one. I mean, I felt bad for the owl. I'm glad it's being taken care of. But that sound is my favorite because it's one I've heard. The other one that was screaming in the woods, that's probably the one that, I still have my nightmares of. But that one is the call I've heard before a bunch.
Yeah, the screeching that sounds like a female.
Yeah.
Hard to fall in love with that because
that's uncalled for. Yeah, that's just uncalled
for. It's a little disturbing.
Yeah, that's a bunch of mute, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. I see our buddy Fred Dawson there wrote in that the call is, who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all? Which is true. That's a good way to remember.
He's exactly right. And Fred would know because he lives up on a farm in Saudi Daisy, Tennessee. And
yeah, Fred, you hear that a lot, I bet.
And Fred's been on our podcast before too, dayfirepodcast.com. He's been on with us. So
the question I would have for Fred, if he's still online, is has he ever lost a chicken? Because he raises chickens up there, and you know, a chick could be snack food.
there we go.
Looky here. What do we got?
Yeah, I'm gonna disappear again for a minute.
Yeah, I have chickens too. I have to worry about these wonderful predators as well. This is a great horned owl. This is a male. He's a little scrunched down, so he looks shorter than he is. I don't know if you can hear that little call he's making. He's mad at me. That's his irritated noise.
Oh, that's him. You're not playing that sound.
That's not me. That's him. Okay, y'all. If I can say this on your show, this is the badass of the forest.
Yeah, you can say that.
Nobody messes with this bird. He's king. A lot of people call these the tiger of the sky. He really rules in the forest. Nobody messes with him.
Look at that. Now, what above it, would we call those eyebrows, or what do we call?
These are feather. It's called a feather tuft. And a lot of people think these are his ears, but we've learned now that their ears are just, little holes in their head, one high and one low. These are not ears. And he's extremely alert right now, so his feather tufts are way up. When he's relaxed, he'll actually lie them down.
Okay.
And you can see he doesn't like me getting close to his face, but you can see he's got a facial disc. Look at that C on the side of his head. He's got a really awesome facial disc also. What you really notice are those incredible eyes.
Would he ever try to peck at you?
Oh yes. Oh yes. He does. He's kind of grumpy. He's been with us since he was an owlet. He came into us when we used to do rehab in 1995. So he is 25 years old. And
how long will he live?
They have been
lifespan.
In captivity. They've been known to live up to 50 years old. In the wild, he would probably not still be alive.
That's just because of competition, right?
Yes, and finding enough food, and he may have to defend his territory against another great horned. And I will say, we talked about nobody really messes with this bird, and given that he is nocturnal, he usually doesn't have a problem with hawks, but he will share the same territory as a red-tailed hawk or a red-shouldered hawk. And red-shouldered hawks are extremely territorial, and they would not back down on a fight from this bird. So that's a possibility.
And what for an owl, does it vary? But when you're talking about home range or home territory, is that 1 acre, 1 mile, 22 miles?
Yeah, it's several square miles.
Okay.
And it's going to vary a little bit, but it's a pretty good sized territory. I'm thinking of a bird in particular that lives in 40 acres in front of my house. It's a red-shouldered hawk, and she's got control of that whole area. There's not another one there. So it is several square miles that they may have as a territory. And it's going to depend on the species too.
So if you're fortunate enough to hear any of these owls in your woods, there's a good chance they'll be there forever. Is that fair to say?
It depends on if they can find enough food and shelter, because those are obviously the things that they have to survive. And so it just really depends on if the habitat is providing what they need.
So they'll move into a habitat, and then they'll be there for a period of time. And if it's sustainable for them, then they probably will stay, right? And if
Correct.
not, then they would move off.
They'll move on because
or there could be too much pressure from another owl, or
they may get pushed out.
A hawk or something.
Right.
And they get pushed out.
Yep, they may get pushed out. Right. Right.
And when they have babies, how many babies at a time would they have?
Great horned owl, their clutch is, I believe, 1 to 4 eggs. And depending on the species, barn owls can have several babies in a clutch, several eggs. I think it's up to 9. Screech owls have a smaller clutch, and barred owls probably have like the 1 to 4 range also.
Once a year.
Once a year. Well, I take that back. Great horned owls are the first owls to mate, and they generally start looking for a mate in Christmas time. They're going to lay their eggs late winter, and they potentially could have a second clutch in the spring. It's not something they do all the time.
Okay. Man, I love the sound.
Yeah, and this is the sound you were talking about, Dawson. This is the hoot owl. It's a it's that typical owl call that you learn when you're a little child.
Well, my neighbor sent me actually, Tish, last night a picture, because they have chickens also, of a bunch of feathers in the backyard, and they were missing one of their young chickens.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me that he was sure that this is the owl he heard up in the woods between the two of us, and so he's been assigned fault that he took a chick last night for snacks, but that's the food chain, right?
Yep, exactly.
They've got to eat.
And if he wants to, try to avoid that, he needs to build a stronger chicken coop.
Well, he lets his free range a little bit, so I think they were just moving around the yard, and one apparently got a little too far away, and it became snack time for the owl.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, but that happens, and that is the cycle of life.
It is. Beautiful animal. Maybe the most handsome.
He is very, very handsome, and the coloration is spectacular, and again, the camouflage is remarkable, just beautiful. You can hear him make it. Did you hear that? That was him.
Yeah.
That was him making that. He doesn't do that very often.
Well, they eat daily.
If they're lucky. It doesn't. It's not always a daily occurrence. Here
Right.
at our facility, they eat 6 days a week, and in the wild, they do not always eat every day. The larger birds can go a little bit longer between eating. The smaller birds have to eat more often.
And the wingspan on this animal?
About 6 to 7 feet.
That's huge.
Wow.
Huge. Can be up to 8. The females, again, girls are bigger than boys. Females can be a really big bird, and we do have a female in our population also.
Yeah, that's the in the world of my imagination, that's the owl I always see when I think of an owl.
Exactly. This is
the one. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one everybody learns about in the hoot owl.
I just didn't know, and I think I can quote you because you're a professional and well educated. I just didn't know he was the badass.
He is badass.
I'm glad you threw that out there.
When I'm on some programs, I can't say that, so I'm glad to say that because he is. It's a great term for him.
We have relaxed standards. We're fine. You're good.
Thank
you. Yes.
And I don't know if I wasn't in when y'all were talking about the eastern screech owl. We call him the Napoleon of the forest because he's so tiny, but he's both predator and prey. If you're the smallest guy in the woods, you got to be tough because everybody wants to eat you. Great horned owl would eat eastern screech owl.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so there's a lot of competition out there in the woods.
So there's no friends amongst the owl neighborhood, right?
No, there's not. They all got to eat.
Okay.
This has been very cool. I've enjoyed this one. We've given more screen time to the animals as we should. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right, I'll step out and let y'all finish up. Mark's
Hey,
here.
Tish, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're
What a
welcome.
treat.
It's fun. Yeah, it is a big treat, and it's really important to us for everybody to be able to recognize their neighborhood animals. And a lot of people know the calls, but they don't know what the animal looks like. So this is a great way to learn.
I have one final question. When you're feeding all these animals, all these birds that we've seen today, do they ever have the opportunity to hunt?
No,
No.
they all live in a mews, MEWS, which is basically an aviary for a bird, and we only feed dead animals. And the reason being is if you feed a live animal and the bird is not hungry, that live animal can actually cause injury to the bird.
Okay.
So for safety reasons, we always feed dead.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, y'all.
I used to have a long time ago when I was in college, I had a boa constrictor. I had a giant terrarium that he lived in, and I fed him live all the time. But I fed him a rabbit one time, a bigger rabbit. He was a good 6.5 foot long snake, and I had him for, I don't know, 9 months. But I fed him one time, and he wasn't hungry. And the rabbit, I've never seen it in my life, back kicked him with his feet. And I did not know this at the time, but he cut him on the mouth, and it got infected. And by the time I took him to the vet, he had a rot mouth, or so, I can't remember the name of it. But that snake, he passed away from the injury because by the time I got him to the vet, that was 30 years ago. But I didn't, I've never seen it like that before. But what she just said is if you try to feed them when they're not ready.
Now we went over to the invasive species talk that we could have about plants too, right, Mark?
It was up outside of Knox when I was 19 years old.
Yeah,
where were you when I was 19 years old?
Yeah, well, that's 19.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, I know there's some other things in the animal kingdom out there that have happened. Is that anything that you want to talk about as we wrap up?
Yeah, so just really quickly, we're part of the Endangered American Red Wolf Species Survival Plan, an SSP, what we call it. And what that means is that whenever a animal is listed on the Endangered Species Act nationally, a group of scientists and cooperators come together to try to raise the number of that endangered species and get the numbers up, and then ultimately delist is what it's called. So I always use the bald eagle as a great example of this. When I was growing up, the bald eagle, symbol of our nation, was endangered, and it was critically endangered and at risk of being lost forever. Today, I mean, I saw one coming around the bend on the way out here, just soaring over the Tennessee River. They're fairly common. You'll see them around now, and they have been delisted. They're no longer endangered. So that is the goal, and that's what we're trying to do with the American Red Wolf. We are one of 40, I think we're at 44 cooperators right now, and they're all over the country. In fact, Washington State is the home of one of the kind of main cooperators that started the program, even though the red wolf wouldn't have ever been in Washington. But we call it, the reason we call it the American red wolf is this is a southeastern wolf. This would be the wolf that would have been on this landscape, and it would have been what's called the apex predator. So it would have been a predator that kept everything else in balance. And you see it with deer if you live up on Signal Mountain like Dawson or down here in the valley. Deer are just completely overpopulated, and it's because they don't have any predators anymore. So anyways, we have currently, we're one of the breeding members of this program. So this year we had 2 red wolves that had been paired together, and the wolves are moved all over the country so that the genetics match up and we get the best genetic couple that we can put together. And so out of those 2 couples that we had, one of them just had pups. So we have
that's so awesome.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing, a new litter of puppies. I have been in and seen them once. We have a new mother. In fact, it's really a cool story because Ruby, the mother, was born here on our property and was one of the few. Usually the puppies don't stay here. They're going to get moved all over the country, like I said. but this one ended up staying in Chattanooga and now has given birth. So it's kind of a full circle thing. It's a really cool story. And she's a new mom, first time mom. So she looked a little freaked out, but we're giving her as much space as we can here. And it's actually kind of a blessing to be closed because that should be a lower stress situation for her.
I think it is probably one of the positives. Looking for silver linings for the virus and for reflection writing having to be currently closed is it's created a really quiet atmosphere, because normally you'd have school kids, you'd be teaching. You'd have your members out there enjoying the property and walking about, and obviously that had to happen. So it's been a lot quieter for the wolf, and I hope to that end that makes the success of these pups' survival continue. So we're looking forward. We want to get you back in a week again, kind of make this a weekly thing, and we'll get maybe a pup update then. But I know that you guys are being, like anytime there's things being born, you're being cautious in terms of what the survival rate's going to be and how many ultimately are going to come out the other side there. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for being on, Clint. You got anything?
I was just gonna, again, using social media for what it's built for. Thanks to George for chiming in, Fred, and then Ruth Thompson just said, "Hey, great job and congratulations on the pups." So thank everybody for tuning in.
Well, good, Mark. Thanks for being on again, taking some time out of your busy day, and we'll be back in touch with you. If you want to learn more though about reflection writing, what's the best way to do that, Mark? Right across the bottom of the page.
Yeah, reflectionwriting.org. It's riding like riding a bike.
Yeah. So
once I took the error out of it before we came live, it's much easier to actually read the right email address.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Well, thanks. All right, Clint. Good to have you.
Yep, good having you. Let me do this as we wrap it up. Visit their website if you want to hear all the past podcast conversations Dawson and I have had with a lot of very interesting folks. Check out dayfirepodcast.com. And with all that being said, Mark, thanks again. Thanks to Tish. Dawson, if you're ready, I'm going to end this bad boy.
See you later. Have a great day.